Yins, guys. I don't know if we're live yet. I don't know yet. Thank you for listening to the British Buctober podcast, where we talk about the Pittsburgh Pirates. That. My name is Josh. I'm here with Jake, but I need clarification that we're live, Jake.
Right.
I just need to know. Pit City, what's in the chat? But I don't know if we are live. Pittsburgh Pirates. That. We are. I got an error on my YouTube stream page. It's like, error, you're not live. And so, yeah, here we go. The chats are coming in. We are live. OG's here. Sharon's here. Pit City What's here. We got everybody here. So, we're live. I love it.
Go.
I love it. Let's kill that. We got a crazy one here today because we have, well, first off, we missed an episode. I was lollygagging around Disneyland with the family, and so we've got a little bit of that. And honestly, though, I just feel like we're probably going to be coming in a little bit hot today. You know what I mean? I mean, we drop a series to the Diamondbacks. That's one thing.
Yeah.
But we're here. Like, every week we have to remind ourselves, July 30th, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every week we have to remind ourselves as I type it in to make sure
It's July 30th.
it's July 30th at 6 p.m. Officially, 6 p.m., the trade deadline. And a bunch of guys are moving, and none of them coming to the Berg yet.
Yeah. It's a little frustrating, but I don't know. Some of them I've been happy to see, to be honest with you.
We're going to get into that. Why is Jake happy? But yeah, so 4 straight series wins. You have a series on the road where you lose 2 out of 3. We don't like losing the first 2 and needing to do what we did, and then golly, that game today like almost blew it and everything. So like all of those things, it's still like, hey, it's not the end of the world. You lost a series on the road after winning 4 straight series, right? So I get that, right? But it's not the end of the world. Bounce back. You're still on the road, but then you come home. And then you've got a series there. And then it's not going to get easier, Jake. They're going to have to earn this every step of the way.
We got the Diamondbacks coming to the Berg here shortly.
Opportunity to get them right back.
Mm-hmm.
OG nailing it here. Ben Sherrington has been lollygagging around too. A lot of truth to that. Jake, I had a chance. It was a shot in the dark, right? But I had a chance to go to the game Saturday night in Arizona. So we were in California, and my wife, Katie, which obviously I don't say to you, but just for the sake of everybody else listening.
Yeah.
She works with somebody who lives in Phoenix, and she's like, oh, you're in California? Fly back when you're leaving, fly back through Arizona, and we'll go to the game. I'll get the tickets. Like, I get tickets all the time. And Katie's like, okay. Well, and she's like, we get really good seats. Don't worry about it. We get really good seats. You'll have a great time. Tickets are on me, blah, blah, blah. You just have to get here. And so we kind of looked it up. What does a flight look like to change our flight to go to Phoenix, have everybody else come back? And then, of course, that's a lot on, on the grandparents to do that because they, So it was like a question, do we do it? We did have an opportunity. Ultimately, like, the price was too much. It would have been a lot.
Yeah.
And we had a whole fiasco where our plane did not land in Pittsburgh, the one that we were supposed to leave on. We were at the airport at 4:00 in the morning. Supposed to leave at like 7. We get there and it's delayed by 2 hours. And then we find out that it was so foggy in Pittsburgh that the pilot just flew that daggum plane all the way to Cleveland. And then when he got there, he timed out and nobody was there to fly it back. So they just canceled it. So we ended up driving to Columbus and flying out of Columbus to get there that night. We were up for like 23 straight hours. I think I did take like an hour nap in between. So anyway, that was the fastest I could have told that story too. It was crazy. But so with all of that and all the like extra stuff, plus I had Dodger tickets for Tuesday night. We didn't get in till midnight Tuesday. And even though I was the cheapest tickets in the section, nobody bought my tickets. So I lost $400+ on Dodger tickets for 4. So obviously after all that, we were like, yeah, we're not going to be able to make it happen. And then we find out that she was sitting in suites on Saturday night. Like that's where we would have been.
Yeah.
But oh well, we gave up 9 runs. So it's fine. All right, so let's get into, let's cover some bases here first. Let's get some of this stuff here because Nick Gonzalez is now injured. Brian Reynolds was out for the series because of bereavement, but he also, if you remember, he kind of had a back thing. Mm-hmm. And then Tellez has a back thing. Seems like Tellez is going to be okay. What an at-bat by him in that game today. Just an absolutely stellar at-bat. And then Nick Gonzalez goes down. He actually goes all the way to the IL with left groin discomfort. Sherrington said it's a matter of weeks, not days.
That's a tough one, man, because that's our guy with runners in scoring position right there.
Yeah. Yeah. You essentially have right now on this team, you have 4 guys on this offense who are day in and day out have the opportunity. It's random on the other nights. Mm-hmm. But the guys you can count on are Reynolds, Tellez, Cruz, and Gonzalez. Those are your 4 guys. 3 of them are out. You know what I mean? And I guess here's a good question.
Reynolds back next series, right?
He will be.
He's coming back.
But you go into today with one of those 4 in the lineup. Mm-hmm. And this is what this all comes down to, Jake. Is this team good? If you can go and lose 3 out of 4 of your main guys and still go out and put, I mean, technically you had an at-bat that was huge from Tellez. So technically he had a piece of that, right?
Yeah.
But basically the point is, and they didn't score for a long time, right? This was a lot of Mitch Keller gets credit for this. A lot of it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But if you can go into this and you can still kind of come away with a win or whatever, then that's when you say, like, is this team actually worth going out and making a trade for? Because if they had no shot to win today, then don't make any moves because they're not worth it.
Yeah.
But they showed you today that they are. Don't you think?
It's tough, man.
The fight is there.
I mean, the fight is there. You know, and if you go out and buy a couple bats or go out and get a couple rental bats or anything like that, you lose the non-competitive at-bats you're getting from Bay. You lose the non-competitive at-bats that you get from even Triolo, even though I think he stays on the team. You know, you don't have to watch these guys. Grandal, hopefully you don't see his at-bats anymore.
I think you will.
So it's
yeah.
You probably will see Grandal still, but
I'm not saying I like him.
Guys on the
if we're calling what they're gonna do. I mean, that's Skeen's guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair.
That's Skeen's guy. And that if it was anybody, if it was like, well, that's Marco's guy, I'd be like, well, see ya. But it's Skeen's guy. So there is a little bit of weight there.
Yeah. There's a good bit of weight there, actually.
Yeah.
But anyway, but still, like, I don't know. I feel like the non-competitive at-bats you're seeing throughout a game, they go away, and now all the at-bats are competitive. I don't care if they're not getting the job done right now. If the at-bats are competitive and they're fighting and it's not just a lost AB, which I think there was some tonight by some good players that I was like, we can't just lift the ball with bases loaded. We're hitting the ball on the ground constantly. Like,
yeah. Well,
that's got to change.
Hayes in general just has a knack for hitting into double plays, and that has to, you know, You got to figure that
the
one out.
the one that he hit into today was only because the runner was stealing. That's
Yeah,
probably a base hit up the middle.
But he hit the numbers though are high. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying that specifically the one today, it's possibly a base hit up the middle.
Yeah.
If the runner's not running.
But he knew the runner was running. You got to, I don't know. It's just funny that the time he should have went to right field is the time he decided to go up the middle.
I mean, decided or is it Major League Baseball?
That's a good point. It's Major League Baseball. There's Major League pitchers out there. I think sometimes we forget that, and we do. And we're all guilty of it. Okay, so anyway, the other big thing there, because I know that we kind of moved into that, and we're going to get into all this stuff. And we've got a lot in the chat here that I want to get to as well. Everybody's going to have a voice because I really do think that there's just a lot here. Mm-hmm. Alika is here for Gonzalez. I'm surprised to see Alika instead of Peguero. Were you, or does the numbers in AAA actually count here? Because Alika's out hitting Peguero in AAA right now. So for you, do you say, well, then call up Alika, or are you thinking Triolo's got second and Alika's now Triolo's spot?
Yeah, I think that's I think that's what they're doing, and I think it's whatever at this point. I'll be honest with you. Second base has been a crapshoot for so long, and Nick Gonzalez took it over, and they're just like, I think most of it was just like, ugh.
Yeah.
And they just don't want to deal with like giving Peguero another chance right now. Just bring up, and they might be. I mean, there's been rumors that Alika has been on. You know what I mean? So give him a shot
or
and
Peguero.
See if you can get anything for him.
I don't know. Yeah, sure, all that. After the game on Sunday, Jack Sawinski optioned to AAA. Interesting here. Alika stays for now. Sawinski goes down. Obviously not going to argue with the decision to move Jack down. Like, it's been a struggle all year. And you and I have said this a bunch. They should get a player, and we'll get into all this, right? But they should get a player to take his spot, option him to AAA. He'll be ready next year. You assume it's not going to go this bad again next year. At least I do. I'm a fan of Jack Sawinski. I believe in that player to hit home runs. And it's none of that is there this year, right? 6 home runs, Jake. Like, it's just not there. Is 6 or 9?
9.
9 home runs. It's just not there right now. I mean, this is a guy that we called to hit 20 to 30 homers.
Yeah.
And it's just not there. And so this to me it's fine. It's better than, it's better than giving up on him. And I don't think that that's what they're willing to do. I think that they like him and they know that he's a good player. But it's been bad all year. Who knows how long this will last? If they get a player, maybe it lasts a little bit longer. If they don't, maybe he gets going and something clicks, but he's got some stuff to work on. But assuming that the only move here today is Reynolds, right? Reynolds comes back to Houston. We're not acquiring somebody tonight. I mean, that doesn't mean we're not, but this isn't an indication of that. All right. So what do we got here? Jazz goes to the Yankees, Winker to the Mets. Brent Rooker's rumored to be pulled off the block. Arozarena to the Mariners. Paredes to the Cubs for Christopher Morel and a couple prospects. I like this trade for both teams. I think the Rays will get something out of Morel. I think that the Rays have the ability to handle that kind of a character and an attitude in Tampa. They just have a way of doing it. Maybe it's just that nobody's paying attention to you, so they settle down a little bit. But I mean, I don't think they do, but I just think, whatever it is. But I mean, that's a good move for the Cubs. I think because it's a move beyond. It's not just a this year kind of thing.
Yeah.
I hate saying I like moves for the Cubs. I don't want them to have good moves, but it does make sense. It's a good move for them, which stinks for us. So there's just a lot to unpack here. Let me get to a couple of these chats. Do you have any in mind right now? Are you looking at anything?
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing them all.
Because now we're ready to open these up. And so here's Dave White. Let's start off with this one. We're going to get to all this stuff, and we might not get to it right away, but this is a bunch of stuff that we're going to be talking about here too. So Dave White says, I'd rather see low-level prospects traded for rental bats than to trade away top prospects. Not with this manager and batting coach. I got to be honest with you. Like, I as far as the GM and the manager, I'm just not done evaluating yet. So you'll hear me say things that are like, that's good. I think that what Derek Shelton did today was really, I thought he made all the right moves as far as throughout that game. I mean, they used the whole roster. Anytime you use the whole roster and get a W, you have to give kudos to the manager at some point. You have to. And there are days that I don't think he does anything right. So obviously they have the information that we don't, is what I will always say.
I love the way Block put that. It's on the players to get the job done, but he put them in the right spots today. Like, he puts it in place. It's up to the players to get it done.
They got to execute.
And they executed today, made him look better.
That's right. They made him look, if they don't execute, it makes him look bad. Sure. 100% agree with that. So it's not like it's just he did it. He won. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
manager never wins the games.
He gets the credit.
He gets the credit when they win.
He deserves it.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, let me hit up a couple of these other ones because then you have Ron says at this point he's even addressing Dave. A rental or two is fine. Can hope for better, but any help is good help. That's a good thing to say too. Any help at this point. You know, you said that before we hit record. He was like, I'll just take anything. Help is help.
Well, I'm saying that as in right-handed or left-handed.
But it's the same idea, right?
Yeah. I care about the player. I don't care what side of the plate he hits.
Yeah. Rob says the lineup was rough today. And they're saying anything at this point. So a lot of the pulse of the chat right here is get something. Get help.
Yeah.
I actually don't think that the lineup was rough today. And if I thought it was terrible, I'll go back to what I started with. If I thought this lineup was terrible, this team's not worth investing in. The lineup was okay. That's it. Which means add two things to it, and in turn you subtract two things from it. And now all of a sudden you have a lineup that you're like, okay, we've got a couple guys out today. We can still put together a nice, you know what I mean? But that lineup was, if it's almost there, it's worth it. And that's where I think this team is right now. I think this team is just almost there. I don't think they're terrible, but they're not a playoff team yet. So here's another one, Dave. I just don't want to give up top prospects to get the bats available and then not go to the World Series. This is going to be a big theme, I think, for us too. I think there's a lot of that. I think we'll get into a couple different things here. The team is talented, not good. That's a fair statement. I'll give you that. So what I'm speaking to is that there's talent. Let's see. We got Sherrod says, all credit on the players for the win. They fought hard. 100%. Like I said, there is a little bit of credit that has to go to the manager when he makes that many moves and they all work. He did matchups and they did all right. Rob says utility boo would be cheap. Dave White, Hayes in the ninth. Hayes was right. This is what baseball's all about. Don't hang your head about 0 for 4. You might get an opportunity to drive in 2 runs that were mega runs. You don't win that game without that base hit.
Well, that was the 10th. I think he's talking about the double play.
Oh, okay. Well,
so we were talking double plays when that popped up.
Okay. Well, here we go. I'm saying in the 10th,
yes,
you don't win that game without his at bat. So you erase that. That's baseball, man. That's the sport that we love. It's the fact that I can be 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts, and I got my teammates saying, "Go get a hit." They don't say you stink. They say go get a hit because none of that matters at that point. That's baseball. It's oh yeah, today stunk, but guess what? We get to go do this again tomorrow, and that's a good thing. That's baseball. That's the sport that we're talking about. If you don't like that kind of stuff, you're watching the wrong sport. Yeah. If you don't believe in a guy who's 0 for 4 with a golden sombrero to come through in this moment, you're watching the wrong sport. That's all I'm saying. That's what's so beautiful about this game.
Yeah. It's a game of redemption.
That's right. All right, so we've got a lot of other things in here too. I disagree with this comment just in saying the first part I disagree with, not the second part. The second part I agree with. But Ron says that none of the guys moved so far took top prospects. The Jazz move took a top prospect. That guy was rated lower, but guaranteed those ratings come out, that guy skyrockets. And I believe I saw somebody said he was already number 3 in their system or something like that. Like that guy's absolutely tearing it up this year and was going to get a huge upgrade in as far as
the catcher, right?
The rankings go. I believe so.
Yeah.
There were some,
like a stud.
Yeah. And I don't know what anybody else thinks about what a top prospect is. And this probably comes to opinion and personal thoughts, right? But what is a top prospect, right? I mean, your top 20, because there was a lot of those guys move. If you say top 5 is the only thing you're considering a top prospect, then yeah, I mean, that's going to obviously change. So it just depends on your interpretation of what a top prospect is. So if that's it, there's another pass, right? That's just a difference between what you consider to be a top prospect. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of names out there, a lot of going here. 12 and 17, Ron says, but and he says top 5 is what he considers to be a top prospect. So in that case, yes, even though, like I said, some of the rankings already had that guy moving up to number 3. So he would have been in the top 5, just timing. And Rob says he's already a Baseball America top 100 player. If you're in a top 100, there's no way you can tell me you're not a top prospect. If you make it in that list, that's a tough list to make it
all
on.
the prospects in baseball.
Yeah. So, I think the Marlins got a lot for who they gave up. That's what we'll start with, right? All right, so let's get into some of this, Jake, because there's a lot of this that we want to cover, and maybe in an order that we want to cover it. Hang on 1 second here. Sorry. Had to click on something, get it out of my way. Got to be ready here. So, now it's time to be critical. Now it's time for you and I to kind of share our opinions, right? And I'll say this. What's the line? We all have opinions, and they're like buttholes. They all stink, right? And that's fine. But in this
excuses.
Oh, that's excuses. What? No, what's opinions? What's the opinions one?
I don't know what the opinions one is, but excuses are like buttholes. They all stink is the saying you're thinking of.
Guess what, guys? Our opinions stink tonight too. Here's the thing. We all have opinions about this. We all have our things that we want them to do. And sometimes those things happen. Sometimes they don't. It doesn't mean that if Jake and I disagree on something and have a different opinion on this guy or that guy, it doesn't mean that one of our opinions is stupid and the other one isn't.
Right.
And it also doesn't mean that the Pirates are terrible at their jobs if they don't make the moves that I think they should make. Right?
Yeah.
There might be a million reasons why they either did or did not make a move that I would have had no clue about. Oh, we went and scouted this guy. Turns out he stinks. I don't know. Maybe they figured out something different. He's lazy. The guys in the dugout don't get along with him. The team wanted way too much for him. Right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different reasons why certain deals don't happen, whether I want them to happen or Jake or any of us want them to happen or not. So I just think that there's just this general idea that our opinions are facts, and they're not. They're opinions, and opinions are awesome and fun to talk about, and literally the reason why we do this show. I just don't think it makes anybody else stupid if they have a different opinion than you.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. I want to get that clear right out of the gate. Right out of the gate. So, let's talk about some of those different things, right? Let's talk about some of those different opinions. Here we go. Uncle Jake likes Kutch. I think he's ready for the glue factory. Bucko Mike. Uncle Jake is not alone in liking Kutch. And here's the thing. I will say this too. I mean, like, this is a fan podcast, right? We are not insiders. We don't have access. This is not, I don't know any of these guys. So it's not, you know what I mean? As a fan, I am not the shredder on MLB Network. I don't rank people without emotion and bias. I 100% have emotion and bias towards players and against players. You might hear a lot of that tonight from one of the two of us.
Yeah, I just want to defend this 1 second, and then I'm going to move on. I said it earlier. There's at-bats that we just give away and throw away, and they're not competitive at-bats. Kutch might do that once in a while, but his at-bats are 90% competitive at-bats. Whether he gets a job done, whether he flies out to the catcher, he probably battled that at-bat. It was probably still a quality, or at least an at-bat that shows fight. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I also, to me, I just think that also, like, he should retire a Pirate, period. I'm done. Yeah. There's nothing left to that conversation for me. If I thought that he was going to keep this team from going to the World Series, then I might change my tune. I don't think that that's going to happen. I think if they're in a position to go there, I think he steps it up because he cares. I think that this is still a very good baseball player inside that. And I think day to day you might see a little bit, but it's one of those things where, like, the stars will still star. They'll still shine when it matters. And that guy wanted a World Series in Pittsburgh. And I think that if that is the path that this team goes on this year, first off, we're all going to have a heyday if that is the case. Like, we're just freaking out. But he should be a part of it.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. And that is 100% with emotion. And I recognize that it may not make perfect baseball sense.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? I just think that's the way it goes. Man, there's a lot here. We got one here. First off, my Twitter feed today was a little bit bonkers. But Ghost Guy here says he wanted to tell us that he agrees that this trade deadline stuff, the issue is the front office wants to win, so do the owners. So I think that we typically on this show don't touch the ownership piece of this thing. We've just decided that we all know the problem, and we've just ignored it. So I think we're going to stay clear of that. What we know, and because it can go a million different ways, right? I don't believe, and I don't subscribe to the thought that these guys, that any of them below the owner, and I'm not going to speak on, you guys know your opinions, and you guys know what you know about ownership. And, some people think that he does want to win, and I think that there is a piece of him that does. I think he won't. I think he wouldn't sacrifice the bottom line to win. I think that's what our problem is, and we could go on. If you ever run into me in person, we'll talk. But we want to steer clear of that for just for reasons of, like, we could talk for a long time, and the fact that we don't actually know anything. But I don't believe that any of those other guys want to lose. I believe they all want to win. I believe they're all motivated to win. But we're going to get there. I don't want to jump ahead. We're going to get there on Sherrington and the front office. I typically would say, to the point of all the chats here, I typically was in the camp that said I wanted a rental player. Specifically for the outfield, Jesse Winker was my guy. And the reason for that is because I believe in Jack Sawinski. You get Jesse Winker, Sawinski goes down, he gets right, he's got an offseason to work on it, but Sawinski's, I'm going to say my guy, but obviously everybody every season has to win a job. You know what I'm saying? So he still has to come out and do it. He doesn't just get a job. Nobody just gets a job in Major League Baseball. Like, you have to earn it.
Right.
Now, if you're signed to a big deal, obviously it's a lot harder to lose that job. But Jack Sawinski's not. So he'd have to earn it. I would have preferred Winker. So let's talk about some of these guys, Jake. Or do we want to go? We want to talk about the actual guys. We want to go down. I mean, I have notes, I know, but you know what I mean. Do you want me to just go through the things I have here? Or do we just want to dive right in?
It's up to you. I don't know. I mean, it's just so much.
I know.
And there's a lot. I know. So I guess if just follow what you got. That way we don't get too lost.
Okay. So, we covered the years of control. We covered the rentals. Rentals are easier to get, right? So if you're saying that you only want to target years of control, that rentals are bad, the counterpoint would be that Winker doesn't block Sawinski in 25, that a rental player doesn't block somebody else in 25. It also means that it doesn't require a big trade of a top prospect. For my money, if you don't have Thomas Harrington on your no trade list, then we're not looking at the same guy. To me, I would trade Termar before I would trade Harrington. And I'd consider Bubba only because I think he can get a higher profile return than Harrington can. But like Harrington would be on my do not trade list. I really like that guy. And like I said, that's opinion. And I'm just saying that would be my list. And then, the counterpoint to only go for rentals is if you're going to get rid of assets, then you could see why a longer term option is good, right? Any asset that you're getting rid of, I want years of control back is the obvious counterpoint to that. Lefty righty stuff. You said, I don't care about lefty righty anymore before we hit record. You said, I just want help. And that's fair. But prior to this, I would have said it has to be a lefty. If Sawinski's your guy you're sending down, then you have to replace him with a lefty, right? Or else is Mike Taylor going away? Then if it's Sawinski and Taylor, it has to be a center fielder. It can't be a corner outfielder, right? So you got all of these things. Like you can't say, oh, let's go after, let's say like Winker, for instance, we stay with him. Well, he's a corner outfielder. Now Taylor has to be the center fielder. Now you got a Taylor Palacios center field going on. Maybe you don't like that. Maybe that's why you don't like Winker. You know what I'm saying? So you've got a lot of different ways that you can go here. But either way, like you're going to have to find a center fielder at some point. Is that what the holdup is? I don't know. None of this is easy, and dominoes will fall no matter what you decide. Here's our thing. Here's where we're going to go. Let me read this. I don't like to read my stuff, but if there were rumors of Jazz and not Winker, then is center field the plan? Are they only looking for center fielders? Is that why my thing was, why aren't we going after Winker? Well, maybe they were only looking for center field, right? I don't know. We heard Winker was being scouted, but that's it. We didn't hear anything else. I don't know, right? Mm-hmm. Is their preference long-term? Is their preference short-term? Is their preference a small salary or they don't care? Is it all about what they're not willing to give up? Right? These are all the things that we don't know. We don't know what the plan is.
We can speculate and guess, but
that's it. So whatever the plan is, Jake, when is this guy going to get a deal done?
Yeah, exactly.
And sorry, all of that was prep for this.
Right.
I'm going to look at some chat while you roll.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the same thing that we were talking about in the offseason when it was coming to free agents. It's like you're linked, but you're not getting anything done. Like I'm hoping. I'm actually like sitting back and I don't try to do the speculating game and like, oh, I think he's thinking this. I'm more on the terms of I hope he's thinking this. I hope this is what, and I'm kind of hoping that it's like they're wanting somebody that we're just like, no, that's a little too much. And I'm not willing to do that to get this player rather than, what would be I'm trying to think of I lost my train of thought. Like I had two examples in there. Now I can only come up with the one, but
Yeah.
Rather than spending money or not spending money, it's, do I want to trade the future? No. Do I want to get rid of this guy and this guy just to get this guy? Like, no, but I'll give you this one and this one. You know, that playing those chess piece games, I'm hoping that he's erring on the side of we're doing this rebuild so we can be competitive for years to come. And what you're asking me to do to get this guy is kind of sacrificing that future that we're trying to build right now to sustain competitiveness. We're not in the room. We're not in the room to talk. So
yeah. What do we got here? We got Bucko Mike says, here's a trade.
I saw this one.
Here's the trade. Josh sends Uncle Jake to the Yankees for 10 years of 1919 root beer.
Here's my thing with that. I'm not going because I'm not shaving. I'm not doing it. I haven't been clean shaven since 2015, and I'm not going back.
So for those of you who haven't been following along, 1919 root beer is a very good brand of root beer. And I had it for like, I don't know, 6-7 straight shows. I bought a case of it. I had a little pony keg that I was getting. And so like it became kind of a thing that we talked about every week. I'm dealing with a Fresca tonight. I'm all out of root beer. So we need to make the root beer kind of a thing, right? I heard that Henry Weinard's, which is another great root beer. I've heard that like there's some people on strike and that's why you can't get it right now. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know. Pit City What says Jazz is 0 for 4 tonight. Ben's a genius.
I'm wondering if Jazz gets a fine. He come out that Yankee dugout and he had a purple and green belt on. No way that's legal in New York.
Oh yeah.
No way.
Fined by his team. You'll never hear Jazz. It's Jazz being Jazz. All right, so let's talk about Jazz, Jake. Are you bummed that we didn't land Jazz?
Not at all. I kind of didn't want that to happen. I didn't think he would fit our culture. Culture is the wrong word, but you know what I'm trying to say? Like the camaraderie of the team. I don't think he would have fit in real well with us.
I think it would have been interesting to see. I try to, when we go down these, because I thought the same thing, right? And he was a guy that I was like, gosh, I just don't want him. Like, I don't need that. I don't care for him as a player. Tommy Pham's on that list, right? For different reasons. Jazz isn't like, he's not a jerk. He's just
right.
He's showy.
Probably super fun and all that, but
you'd have to know. And it's one of those things where I like to try to say, okay, well, if this happens, obviously he plays on my team. I'm going to root for him. So I have to figure out, whatever, what's it going to look like? And so there was some like baseball things that I did like about Jazz as a player. I think if he's not coming in with, he's a perennial all-star, superstar in the making, about to burst, which is what it felt like for so many years, and it never happened. It's like, no, he is who he is, and he could be a good ball player if he understands he is who he is.
But the whole thing about it is like, we need a center fielder. He's not good in center field.
I think he's just not. I think he's good, right?
He's below average.
Is he?
Yeah. I mean, if you look at, numbers on paper.
Well, and that's, I guess, what I was going to look at, but
I think they showed it. He was like a -9 defense run saves in center.
Oh. Yeah, I mean,
his best position by far is second base.
Above average. In like the outs above average, he's a 1, which is 70th percentile. Arm value is better than that. Arm strength is not, though. So take that how you want it. I mean, a lot of blues on the offensive side, though, Jake. I'm just saying. You know what I mean? Like a lot of blues on the offensive side of this thing. So, I don't know.
Yeah. I'm not upset. I kind of didn't like the fit.
Yeah. And I think that's one of those things. Like it's that for a lot, you know what I mean? you've just heard a lot. You've heard a lot about it. I'm kind of with you there. So I don't know. I think for the package that they got Ron, this is it.
Yeah, I will agree with that.
Yeah, I think there are some valuable metrics out there, but there are some, for sure, defensive metrics are not perfect. There is still a lot of eye tests to be done on defense. A lot of it. Mm-hmm. It's just, yeah, we don't, and I'm a numbers guy. I like to dig into the stats. I just think that the defensive metrics do not line up with what we watch day to day.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of that. I mean, I'm sure that they're sky high for Triolo because he made one play. You know what I mean? In right field.
And then he whiffed on the next one.
But you just have no idea. Well, that's a triple anyway.
Oh, 100%. That's a triple.
Yeah.
As soon as he hit that ball, I looked at Ashley and I was like, oh, there's a triple.
Yeah. He's so fast. So anyway, to me, like I said, it's Winker. There's Jazz. It goes back to I'll take anything. And I could have been okay with the Jazz trade. I could have been okay with it. If you believe in your clubhouse and you believe in, what they're building there, whether it's clubhouse culture, whatever you want to say, then he'll be fine. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of one of those things that I thought, you know what I mean? If he ends up being a little bit like Palacios, I can deal with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's fun. So, maybe you get some of that.
And it's like I told Ashley too, because we were talking about it when he got traded to the Yankees. I'm like, it's not like the dude couldn't have come in and couldn't have got mentored by, Kutch, who's not flashy, but he has his moments. And, I feel like he may have gotten a hold of Palacios a little bit, reeled him in a little bit, or any of the older guys on our team that just kind of can reel people in a little bit. I just think Jazz would have been tougher with him because he is a little bigger, just as far as personality.
Yeah, and I don't. So I hear you. You're my brother, so I can hear some of that in you that maybe some others don't. It's not just the flash. There's flash that you can deal with, right?
Oh,
there's some
100%.
having fun. I mean,
100%.
O'Neal Cruz is not short of flash, right? I mean, there's that there. There's an attitude way about that he goes about it that's off-putting, and but either way, that's fine. I think this is a comment I want to bring up.
To me, it's in the same.
Go ahead.
It's in the same boat as the Rosarena.
Yeah, it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, I don't like it. I understand some people do. That's fine. I'm just not into it. Mutu says, I'd like him to buy, and he's talking about the deadline, and he can live with them selling. And this is one of the things that happened on Twitter today, which I think, or maybe it was yesterday, but either way, there was a little bit of confusion about it. He says doing nothing at the deadline would be a disaster. Now, he's clearly stating that there are 3 things that you can do, right? It is, a lot of people treat it as in you're either a buyer or you're a seller. There is another path. Doing nothing is one way to put it. I think maybe trusting the process is another way to put it. And I'm not saying that for me. I don't have to trust the process. I want them to just be better. As a fan, I just want to see them win, right? But I'm trying to put myself in their shoes. If you're a front office that believes in what you're doing, do you abandon ship and sell your plan that you've worked for 5 years to develop, 4.5-ish years to develop? And do you say, hey, can we just throw a piece of this away to go for it? Paul Skeens has caused a problem in a great way for fans, a really difficult problem for those who said, we've got a plan. And then here comes Paul Skeens and really kind of wrecks it, because when he's there, you want to win. You know what I'm saying? And so it does create a problem, because he said, we're going to change a little bit. Now, we haven't seen him actually do that, but they said it. We just haven't seen him do it. But I think that staying put is still a viable plan if they believe in what they're doing and they don't, and let's say they're like, hey, we only want Jazz if you send us Bubba and I don't know. Give me another name.
Termar.
Bubba and Termar only. And we're like, no, you're not going to do that for Jazz. Like, no,
Right.
There's no way. He is not worth that. He's not even worth what they got. In my opinion, I don't see it working out. I don't know, man. I don't know. But I think that staying put and staying the course, if you believe in the course, which if they don't in the front office, we've got a lot more things we can talk about. I'm assuming they believe in what they've been doing.
Yeah.
Whether we do or not, it's not up to us, right? It's up to them to do what they need to do. So I think that I think that this is the year in the blueprint. If they're going with this blueprint, this is the year that they'll be around 500 and they'll take off next year. That's exactly what we're watching the Baltimore Orioles do right now.
Mm-hmm.
Year 5 was the year that they were around 500. Couple over, I think they were 82 and 80, 83 and 79, something like that. And then the next year, I think they blew up, right? They won 100 games. It's not a guarantee they're going to do that, but like next year, you're going to hold this front office even more accountable than, or maybe the same accountability that a lot of fans already put on him, right? You got to understand that as fans, we've been waiting for this since 2016, but like,
right.
But this front office and this plan and this blueprint, this specific rebuild started in 2020. If you remember, if we go back, Sherrington didn't even know if he was going to rebuild. Do you remember that? Like when he came in, there was no rebuild in place. And he was like, I don't know if we're going to do a full rebuild. And then COVID happened and it kind of forced their hand. They were like, I don't have time to assess. We got to act. And so they went into full rebuild mode, even though they denied that's what they were doing. Like it was pretty clear that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
But to me, like that's when it starts. It couldn't have started in 2016 long before he ever considered even working here. Like that's just not a thing. Anyway. 5-year rebuild. That's what it is. I think that you can speed something like that up. When you get a guy like Paul Skeens, you can speed something like that up. It's what we'd all love for them to do. I don't want them to do it stupid. And I just have the fear that like going out and getting a Jazz or I'm going to get crushed for this one, but a Luis Robert, like the dude's hurt all the time. You might tremendously regret that if you give up Bubba and Termar to bring that guy in and he plays 50% of the games while he's employed here.
Yeah.
So those are the things that like
blow up there.
Sure. Those are the things that are like, okay, listen, I get it. I work in information security. I'm going to be a little harder to convince to take big risks when I have something that I can trust. Once again, I'm not the person who trusts this process. I don't know what's going on any more than you guys do. But this front office should trust what they've been doing. They should like what they've been doing. But eventually, whether it's free agency or trades, this front office has got to figure out how to cross the finish line. Mm-hmm. This is going to always be my biggest criticism of theirs until they make it happen. You can go back to the offseason and say, who did we sign? Or who did we not sign, right? This team was close on Minaya. This team was rumored, right? Rumored close on Shota. Runner up, right? There was a couple others too. That it was the one dude, and I haven't even really heard his name very much, but the right-hander from Cuba. It feels like we talked about him every week.
We talked about him a lot, yeah.
But they were right there, right? And they just couldn't get it across the finish line. Now, whether that's ownership saying, no, you ain't getting that dollar, or whether it's just been being too patient, waiting for things to just land on his lap. Like, that's not how it works. You got to go get it. And I think that is one of the big things that happens a lot. We've got Taylor Ward, De La Cruz. We've got these kind of names coming up. Lane Thomas. Taylor Ward hit a grand slam today. So let's, I don't mind. So this is the lefty righty thing, Jake. This is what it comes down to, right? Because initially I was like, hey, I don't know about Taylor Ward. I don't really like his game. I don't think he's like a big answer, but he's right-handed, so he's not my guy. At this point, you're losing options. So Taylor Ward would be an option. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Most assuredly.
It's hard. I was telling you before we got started, I wish there was just and if you guys know where it is, if anybody knows where it is, just a list of guys. These are the guys that are probables on the trade block. Like, it'd be way easier for me to look up information. I hadn't even considered Lane Thomas. Just looked him up while you were talking a minute ago. Mm-hmm. I actually don't hate that.
Yeah. He's
got
one of the ones.
110 OPS plus.
Yeah. He's one of the ones that's out there.
Yeah. I hadn't even considered him.
Ron, I understand what you're saying. So Ron brings up getting a bat or two with a few prospects they can afford to lose is hardly abandoning their plan. I think if it's like, if you're dealing away Bubba and Termar and, Harrington and whatever, I think there's a big thing to that. Their plan right now is very pitching heavy, and that's their strength. And I think if you deal from that strength too early, we haven't even seen that this is working yet. We haven't, right? We see all they've drafted well, they've developed well. Obviously, development doesn't finish until they're winning games in the major leagues. And we're just, 500 to us feels great. Yeah, hey, look, this is good. But, they're not winning yet. You know what I'm saying? They're getting there. And I think they're very close. But that's where they should be. Very close. I don't know.
Yeah. To me, it's
Ghost Guy. Real quick, Ghost Guy asks if interested to know if we believe Cruz is a long-term answer at shortstop. For now, yeah. For a short answer there, just to knock us off, I say for now, yes. And I was big into moving him to right field.
I think he's checked a lot of boxes this year.
Yeah.
I didn't love the play the other day when he tried to throw behind the runner, but
yeah,
that was kind of a bonehead play.
Yeah. Ron says some of us fans been waiting since 1979. That's fair. You're only talking about a World Series. I will never erase 13 through 15. They were a blast. Absolute great baseball team, huge moments. I'll never take those away. Those were awesome. I understand we didn't win a playoff series, but this is baseball. There's 162 games in a summer. If you have a great summer, then you have a great summer. Don't take that away from me. And so, I get what you're saying. You're saying world championship. It's just not that easy in baseball. I don't understand how else to put it. We have a league that is so vastly different from the coast to the middle in money, and there's no shared revenue, and there's no cap, there's no floor. There's somewhat of a cap. There's no floor. There's none of that stuff exists. The teams do not have equal opportunity to be good. Yet somehow this sport is able to have the best competitive balance in all the leagues when it comes to championships. It is just so hard. And it's all luck. The thing that's skill is getting in. Everything after that is who's hot. It is not, It has nothing to do with who's the better team. Absolutely not. You know who the better team is at the end of 162. And that's it. Baseball is just so different for me because I love it. I can watch this. I am enjoying watching this team this year and the things that, we just talked about O'Neal Cruz. He's so much fun to watch. And sometimes it's frustrating, but it kind of adds to the fun. You know what I mean?
The ball he hit Saturday night was ridiculous.
The ball he hit today was ridiculous. All I'm doing is watching the game, and we had some things to do. We just got home yesterday, right? So we had some things we were doing. And you're just kind of you're looking, and all I can see is O'Neal Cruz can't hit a curveball. O'Neal Cruz doesn't know how to adjust when they're throwing the curveball. And then he takes a curveball that you have no business hitting and hits it 400 feet today.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a curveball off a lefty. He made an adjustment and he went and hit a 400-foot bomb. Like this guy.
In off the plate inside. So that ball was never a strike.
He can make adjustments. He's a joy to watch. I understand that, like, I've been criticized. Oh, so you like losing? No, obviously it's way more fun to watch them win. Obviously I want them to win a World Series. Like that's a given though.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, it doesn't mean that everything's a failure. I'm going to live for X amount of years. I'm not going to be robbed of enjoying baseball just because I didn't see a World Series championship. Granted, I want to see it, but how many people lived and died and Boston never won? You think those people just regretted their entire lives because their favorite baseball team didn't win a World Series? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's frustrating, but at the same time, I just want to see a good baseball team. We haven't even had that, except for those 3 seasons.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, when I was a kid, the teams in the early 90s were good, which you won't remember much. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But, like, Van Slyke was the dude. You know what I'm saying? But, like, other than that, like, man, I just, you can't take that. Yeah. Sorry.
You're good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of these chats. The chat's killing it right now. And there's a lot that I know that, because this is all, like, this is where we're at right now. We're in a time where we're all kind of like, the only reason we're so upset is because this team is close and we all want them to just be so good. Right? Yeah. So, there's just a lot to this. My criticism still will be, regardless of whether I like the trade or not, I've got to see this front office actually get something done.
Yeah.
And even the extensions that they've signed have been long and drawn out.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't cross the finish line. There's like this patience or this nervousness or this, whatever it is. That's my criticism. And it was this offseason. And it is again. Even the patience on like a Carlos Santana. And right now, that's fine. Rowdy Tellez, who we thought was the worst ever, is now becoming like a cornerstone of this team somehow.
Legit, that is an acquisition.
Yeah.
That has been an acquisition. Like, but you know what I mean? Like halfway through the year, he starts hitting. But, oh gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't trade with the Rays, right?
Right. So there's a lot of this. So Ghost Guy says Ben isn't a great GM. He's too cautious, and it is annoying. I don't know if it is annoying is like an official. He's not good because it's annoying, but yes, he's too cautious. I don't know that makes him not a great GM. It might though. It's on the list of things that will make him not great. The only reason I say that, and the only reason that I'm patient on like the verdict, is because I just have to see next year. I want to see the rebuild through. If he has to deliver next year. If not, that's where we're at. Okay, you didn't come through. We all see the blueprint. Well, those of us who are recognizing that that's the blueprint, right? Because I think a lot of people are the impatience, which, like I said, completely fair to be impatient with this team. I'm not faulting you there. But when I say the blueprint is a 5-year rebuild, it's there. It's all like we've seen it. It's being successful right now in Baltimore. They're 2 years into their winning ways. And so why do you do a 5-year rebuild instead of a 3-year rebuild, right? The answer is a 5-year rebuild is supposed to, according to the theory of the plan, is supposed to create a sustained winning team. You're supposed to be able to do it year in and year out and blah, blah, blah. The problem with that is this extra playoff team, Jake. Because now what you're doing is you're creating an environment where you can be okay. You can be a good baseball team and sneak into the playoffs like the Diamondbacks did last year and you can make a run all the way to the World Series. That team probably just shouldn't even have been in the playoffs, and they went to the World Series.
Yeah.
84 wins, and they were, right there.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
I'm all for the underdog story and everything, but I like it more in other sports where there's less games to figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean, while it's happening, I enjoy it. It's fun. So with the Diamondbacks making that run, it was fun. But it's just like play 162 in this league.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, you find out who the best teams are. That's a lot of games. That's a long summer. And to do all that to prove you're the best team in baseball and then get knocked out by an 84 win team just because they got hot. Because it is baseball and anything can happen any day. It's frustrating.
Mm-hmm. Ron asks, if winning the World Series is not the goal, then what's the point of everything in between? If winning the World Series is the goal, then that means that 29 baseball teams every year had failed seasons. I just don't subscribe to that.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was going with exactly what I was saying, and you brought it up. It was perfect timing. Like,
okay,
your goal is to make it to the playoffs because anything can happen once you get there. Your goal is to kind of win the regular season as best you can. So if you're the best team in baseball, of course, the regular season, yes, you still want to win that World Series, but the World Series sometimes just isn't the tell-all of who the best team was. It's the hottest team.
No, but the World Series is the pinnacle, right? It's winning the tournament at the end of the year, and you have to get into the tournament. And so a lot of teams right now are just trying to get into the tournament so that they can go and try to win the championship in the tournament. All I'm saying is, if you don't win the tournament, it doesn't mean you had a bad summer.
Right.
And that's the only point I'm trying to make is like, my life's going to go on regardless.
Yeah.
And I think for those players, it means a lot more than it should to the fans. All you can ask for, and what we haven't gotten a lot in Pittsburgh, is a fun summer of meaningful baseball that's fun to watch, that's edge of your seat. It's kind of hard. I do it because I'm a baseball fan and I recognize day to day to day to day to day. And I say recognize, not like everybody else is incapable, but like for me, that's just how I work, right? Whatever today's game is, whether we're 60 games under 500, I just want to win that game. I just want to win today's game. And so I can be on the edge of my seat, but I can very well. And there have been many years, especially in the last few years, where like we're close to winning and I'm not on the edge of my seat because I'm like, well, it doesn't really do anything. It doesn't mean anything. In the end, it's just kind of like, oh, cool, we won. We've talked about this for all the years we've done this podcast. We want to see players do well because what they do means something. But like the team, we know they're not going anywhere. So it's kind of like not edge of your seat. Man, if we could just have a team that puts me on the edge of my seat every day, that's like meaningful, and then, you know what I'm saying? Like you get a little bit of energy from that. And that's all I'm asking for. But then again, I'm a Pirates fan. I can understand that for a lot of fan bases look, talk to Yankees fans. They haven't won it since what? What was their last championship? Go ahead.
Was it 07?
Take your guess. I'm pulling it up. The delay, right? So I don't know if anybody's going to get it because of the delay. But why is it not? Oh, I'm just not low enough. Yeah. 09. 2009. You know what I mean? Sure, they're there every year. So what are we? Do none of those matter? They've won so many games since then, and it just doesn't matter. And to Yankees fans, it doesn't. To me, that's not a place I would. See, 412 double play. Michael, you're in. Mutu, you're in. I'm going to guess that those guys had their chats in before they actually heard me say it. Because the delay. They know it. 09. That's not like, it's not 79. I understand that. But I also understand that, like, the world of baseball changed after that. Like, things started changing around then, and all of a sudden, these teams that, you know, big city teams, big market guys could outbid. And free agency changed things, and players don't play the same place all the time. I mean, I was just talking to somebody the other day, and they said to me, like, oh my gosh, the Dodgers had the same lineup for like 9 years straight. It was the same guys. You knew exactly who you were going to play when they were young, and then when they were old, it was the same guys.
Yeah.
That just doesn't happen now. Mm-hmm. And if you're a team like Pittsburgh, you're still trying to figure out how to operate. And unfortunately, this team has had ownership that hasn't been able to do that. And other cities have that are in the same situation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They've created this themselves.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You
just can't buy it anymore.
No.
It just doesn't work like that. You got to build it. You got to have you literally have to have a team now. It's not you need to have the right players, or not the right players, but you don't just need talent and players. You need a team. And sometimes when you just go out and buy whoever just because they have good stats, doesn't mean everybody's going to click and it's all going to work.
Yeah, Padres, prime example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, all of that to say that they got to cross the finish line, and here we are, a couple days away, and we're going to see what kind of move they can come up with. Maybe it'll be good. Maybe not. Maybe they'll give away some guys. Maybe they won't. I don't know. It's
just super hard right now with the playoffs being expanded. There's not as many teams to pick from.
Right.
Teams are more reluctant to trade. There's a ton of teams that still have a shot.
What are we saying, Bucko Mike here? If the Pirates had an Uncle Jake beard, hair, more offense, they got 10 more wins. I'm a little bit, I don't know. I don't get that one. Anyway, this is a good point shared. He's trying too hard to avoid what Neil Huntington did with the Archer trade. There's a possibility that there's some of that there. I don't think that he really thinks about what the Pirates did in the past. I think he's more or less going to think of things that he did in the past. But this could be on the list. There is at least Ben Cherington saying, I want to make this deal. And the owner might be saying, hey, we went down this path one time before and it hurt. I'm still hearing about it.
Make sure this is the right thing.
You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? He could be getting stopped on some things like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, but this is not the time to be waiting for the perfect scenario. There's a time in the off season where you can be patient to see if something will develop. That's not what the trade deadline is. You've got to be, there's part of me that wishes the trade deadline was the All-Star break. There's part of me that wishes that because I think I would rather you just have to go with your team for that season. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know though, because there's also part of me that says, why aren't we just doing it at the end of August in case of injuries and a team's still in it? But that's kind of part of the hard thing about baseball. Like baseball's hard and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I go back and forth in my head on stuff like that.
Especially with expanded playoffs. If you do it earlier, there's no trades because everybody's still in it. There's only a couple teams out at that point.
But that kind of, to me, that kind of like, if you make a trade that early, if you force teams to make a trade at the end of June, wouldn't they be better off for it if they made their team better? And yeah, you'd have to move bigger prospects to do it. But like that's maybe a little more of the juice that'll get you going. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm somebody who roots for my team, so I don't actually like. I'm reluctant to love trades because I'm like, no, I already like these guys. I've paid attention to. I've started to pay less attention to the minor leaguers because I don't want that. Like this Tom, the Harrington thing is going to bug me. I'm going to be like, golly, we gave away Harrington. I didn't want to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't get attached to him.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where, like I said, you know, sometimes it works that way. There's a guy that I'm like, I can't wait. And then I've told you before, I am fully prepared for Tamar Johnson to never don a Major League Pirates uniform because I just assume he's going to be dealt before he makes this club. That's just what I think, right? He's one of those guys. Pitching, though, is just too hard to get, and especially for a small market, it's too hard to get. Dude, we couldn't even get Seth Lugo, and we didn't think Seth Lugo was going to be what he is. Imagine if they landed him. Jack Flaherty, who's been way better than what we thought. There's just a lot there, man.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm waiting. I'll see what comes of it. I don't know what it's going to look like. And I'm done guessing because I just, you know what I mean? To me, it's more of those, it's more or less one of those things where it's like, well, let's just see it play out. It's only a couple days away now. Let's see it play out. And then we can analyze and criticize and all those things afterwards. And we'll do all of those things. I'm sure we will, right? You're going to have 10 people who love it, 10 people who hate it with everything that happens. And that's fine. And maybe they don't do anything, which is still something, in my opinion. It's still something. It's something to talk about because why? Was it because they're just scared to hit the gas pedal? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Was it because the asking price was just too high? Which to me would be like, well, good job for not being like in a panic mode and just making a move and having it hurt.
Right.
You can't afford that. You're not the Dodgers.
And that's the thing too. You can't afford it. You can't afford to miss. And that's probably why he's being so cautious. It's not an excuse though. Like, you got to get something done.
Yeah. Worth saying it every time, right? Not an excuse. You got to cross the finish line.
Right.
But you could see in some scenarios where, I mean, there's no reason for like a Jesse Winker type. They're not asking for too much. Like it's just not, it's not possible. Right. I mean, and if they were, they didn't ask for the same price for I mean, I don't know what, they didn't get anybody. Not of note, right? Not, it's not like they would have said like, well, Bubba or we're not making the deal. And then they go made that deal. Like they didn't get equal. You know what I'm saying? So it's not something like that. But man, it's just one of those things where like, I think this team could still make a run regardless. I just think that they'd have had a much better shot. And there's a certain level of energy when you make a move that amps a team up and gets them going sometimes. And I think that any of these moves could have done that or could still do that, I guess. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I don't know if there's anything cooking. I feel like we're back in the off season where we're saying, well, we'll take what's left.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I just don't see a clear cut thing to that. And now Nick Gonzalez is out. You've got a lot of internal options at second base. We don't love any of them. Do they make a move there? I've seen, and you've talked about Ahmed Rosario. Is he somebody that could possibly fill that hole and then also play some outfield when he comes back? Is there something there? I have no idea. No idea. And I don't, man, to me, this time of the year, it gets exciting and it gets stressful and it gets annoying. And then you see trades that you're like, how did they even do that? Why didn't we do that? How did you just give up that? And then you see trades like, you gave up all that for Jazz? Well, because you're the Yankees. If it doesn't work out, you just buy more players.
Yeah. You
know what I mean? Like you do something like that in somewhere else. I mean, I don't know. We're going to go, way too far into something and it's going to be, I don't know. I still, for me, as far as outfield, unless they're a center fielder, I think they should be a rental.
Yeah.
If it's a center fielder, that kid from Colorado, Doyle. If it's Doyle, fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm good with that. Otherwise, yeah. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I think
He'd be
this
a hard
is
guy to get though, because I think they're going to try to build around him.
I never understand what Colorado's doing, so it's hard to tell.
That's fair.
He's 26. It's not like he's a 24-year-old. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Man, there's just a lot. The chat's crazy today. You guys are awesome. I know that we kind of bounced around here, but I feel like that's where we're at right now, right? We have our thought process right now is we're seeing a bunch of guys get traded, and we're still sitting here wondering, what are we doing?
Yeah. And to me, the thing that bothers me about it is it's just like, we get no recognition from the baseball world other than Skeens. And it's just like, why not? Because we don't do anything. So we're not doing anything. So we're not relevant. Like, make a trade. Make a free agent signing that's worth talking about. And they might talk about us on the bigger platforms.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care if they do or not, but I see what you're saying. Nobody's thinking about it.
It's just frustrating.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm the only person that cares about that.
Every idea you've ever had, somebody else has had it too. So,
yeah, you watch MLB Network and you see all these trade candidates and potential landing spots, and it's just Pittsburgh's just never brought up.
Yeah, for a while there, you saw our name out on several different players, right? And then the closer it got, the more it kind of disappeared. And what's that tell you, man? Are these people hearing things? Are they saying like, man, Sherrington's really just not willing to go there, or whatever it is?
Yeah.
That's why I think that the rental player is the route that they'll go, and maybe the route they should go, because it doesn't disrupt what you're already doing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of where I thought they would go. I thought that still would have been a good move. I think it doesn't change course of your actual, like I said, if you're in the front office, you should trust what you're doing. And I think getting some rental players won't derail that. And I think it still gives you the ability to push for this year to go win without altering the whole thing you've been doing for the last 4.5 years.
Right.
But if you got a player with control, you're adding to. So I don't know. Like, you're adding to the plan. So like there's wins everywhere. You just got to do something. It doesn't matter. We're all going to eventually fall in and say, wow, you're either going to say like, that was a smart move, or you're going to say that was stupid. I hate it. It's one or the other, but at least they did something.
Right.
And I'm coming from a place where I'm okay if they don't in certain circumstances, but we'll never know those. We'll never know that somebody said, well, I needed Bubba and Termar to make this happen. And if we all knew that they were only willing to make that deal for that, probably half of us would be like, yeah, that's stupid. That guy stinks. The guy is a 105 OPS plus, and you want Bubba and Termar for him, and he's a free agent at the end of the year? Like, no, that's not going to happen.
Right.
Nobody would do that. I don't know. Maybe they would. I'm still kind of looking through chat because there's a lot of good stuff. Like it, you got. I'm gonna read over this when we're done. So, you got Rob out here saying Colorado owner is drunk. The other thing, I just wish that I wish that the owners would just say, "Hey, you guys deal with baseball. I'll stay out.
Yeah.
Let's blame GMs.
You hire the GM to do this stuff for you. Stay out of it. You should be hiring a guy you trust.
That's true. What is this? Ron says Tellez,
Rental
Chapman,
guys.
Gonzalez are just a few examples of rental players.
I think rental player is somebody you acquire to finish out the season. I think a 1-year deal is different than a rental.
Yeah. Man, we wouldn't even have those guys if they could cross the finish line.
Yeah.
If they could get a deal done in the offseason, we wouldn't even be looking at this. We wouldn't have had Marco and Martin Perez. Actually, Marco was a trade, I get it, but like a weird one. Everybody was just trying to be like, we don't want him. Anybody want him? We'll pay for him. That's how bad we don't want him. But like, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's it. That's it here too. Ghost says that rentals are not in the plan for the Pirates. I don't know that we know that as far as like the trade deadline this year, if that's what you're talking about. Like, I don't know that we know what their plan is. If that's the case, I mean, they're not going to give up like valuable assets for rentals. That you're dead on.
Yeah.
But if it's like, hey, you can have a single A catcher that we don't see as part of the future anyway, and we'll just have 2 months of a guy, then yeah, I think they could do that. Ron says, name a team that crosses the finish line without using. I mean, you can go back to Marlon Byrd and Justin Morneau. Like part of that whole 13 through 15 that we're talking about that we loved, it was done by acquiring guys like that who were going to be free agents. I mean, that was a big part of it. And you know, those kind of pickups are fine. I mean, J Happ was one that we can remember, and a couple of them we turned back into something. You know what I mean? But I don't know. Reynolds to me is not really not like a full year. Like that's not
right.
A rental has to be a trade deadline move who's a free agent at the end of the year. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a rental player. You don't rent somebody for the whole season. They're there.
You got them.
So I don't know if that's what this is talking about, because I know they're kind of talking amongst themselves as well as talking to us. So there's a lot going on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bird was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Love that move.
It's fun to watch.
And that could have been like a Jesse Winker type move. You know what I'm saying? Like that.
Yeah. That
could have been something like that. I don't know. The game is definitely different than it was back in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
It's different. So I don't know that you get away with some of the same things that you did before too. So I'm not sure. Okay, so that's what Ghost is saying. You don't rent a player for a whole season. Whether it's a 1-year deal or a 2-month pickup, they're not in your long-term plan, is what Ron's saying. This is true too. But once again, I think this is what I've gotten in trouble with before, specifically recently. We're getting caught up on a word, right?
Yeah.
So let's not get caught up on a word. This is true. All of those things are true. They don't cost top prospects. That's right. What those things are, right? Mm-hmm. And we've got some guys that some people could consider as a rental. I don't know that you deal them away. If you're staying the course, you're not dealing those guys away. You're not going to sell. I don't know if Martin Perez and Marco Gonzalez are considered selling. That's not. It's more like just offloading. It's just part of the job. Hey, these guys aren't going to be here, so let's get them somewhere else. We've got other guys. But at this point, I don't think we have other guys. We don't know who the heck's starting games for us.
Right.
All right, Jake, you got anything else? We got to get moving here. It's been a good long episode, and I know we missed Friday, so whatever. But these are the times where, like, occasionally these things are going long. This whole trade deadline, we've been going long.
Yeah.
This team's finally worthy of talking about this stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's been a frustrating and fun team to watch this year. And I'm here for it for the long haul, and we'll see. We'll see what happens, and we'll react to it when it does, if it does.
Yeah. We'll be back on Thursday night in some fashion, maybe another late night bucking like usual on Thursday nights. And we'll get to break down what they did or did not do. And you know what I mean? That's going to be, let's keep throwing wood on the fire, coals, whatever, however here we go again with words.
However you keep your fires going.
Good way to finish this show. Rob is asking for the Mike Fetters. Jake, what do you got? Let's play some music. Ron, see you later, buddy. Everybody else, see you later. Thanks for being here on the live show. For those of you listening on the audio, thanks for listening. Everybody, please subscribe to the YouTube if you haven't already. We gotta get our subscriber numbers up there. Podcast, same sort of thing. Get those notifications. Listen to Keely tell you all about it. Thanks for listening, guys. We love you guys. Let's go Bucs.
Let's go Bucs.
Thanks for listening to my dad and Uncle Jake on the Bridge to Buctober podcast. Follow them on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Bridge2Buctober. Don't forget to subscribe so you know when new episodes are released. Clear the deck, cannonball coming, and let's go Bucs.